Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahabushai, Bahasham, Rakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahabushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Revelation chapter 9 verse 12. One woe or destruction is past, referring to World War I, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter, which should be obvious what those two woes are. World War II, which is past, and World War III, which is quickly coming upon us and will go nuclear. And the two main combatants in this upcoming third woe is going to be the United States of America as well as Russia. It's no coincidence that in the news over these last years, you've been hearing what? The U.S. and Russia leaving from all these Cold War era nuclear weapons treaties and talks from Russia about how they've built up their nuclear arsenal and aren't afraid to use it on the West. Hey, specifically the United States of America. Biblical prophecy is coming to pass right before our very eyes, and these are all just indicators that we truly are living in the last days, really the last seconds of the last days before the end of this current age of the rulership of the heathen nations, chiefly by the biblical Edomites, known as these so-called white people, which includes these Americans as well as these Russian Edomites, before the ushering in of the kingdom of heaven under the true children of Israel, known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And in the midst of World War III, Yahawashi, the Son of the Most High, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus Christ, is going to make his second coming as well to save the elect of the nation of Israel and to go to war against you heathens, chiefly you Edomites as well. But I opened up the video with this verse to preface an article on radaronline.com, hey, just to further show that these prophecies are hopping off the pages and into reality. And the title of the article reads, Vladimir Putin, who of course is the president of Russia, sends nuclear bombers to Arctic base ahead of NATO summit, raising World War III fears. Third woe fears. And hey, that Arctic region is going to play a significant part in this upcoming third woe in the use of these nuclear missiles. And this is just another video in a long list of videos I've done, profiling Russia's continued buildup of its military presence in that Arctic Ocean region, nuclear capable. And as we're about to read in this article, they're further gearing up their nuclear capabilities in that Arctic Ocean region, because it's a well-known fact that Russia shooting missiles from itself across the north, across that Arctic Ocean region, as well as shooting missiles from the north from its assets in that Arctic Ocean region to hit the United States of America, would be the shortest trajectory time it would take for those missiles to reach the U.S. But before we continue, let's get a precept. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50, which deals with, Babylon, two Babylons, the Neo-Babylonian Empire under Nebuchadnezzar, as well as the downfall of Babylon the Great, the virgin daughter of Babylon, the United States of America. This is Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 9. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon, not the Neo-Babylonian Empire, but Babylon the Great, Mystery Babylon, the mother of harlots in Revelation chapter 17, again, the United States of America, an assembly of great nations from the North Country. And what's north of the United States of America? It just so happens to be that Arctic Ocean region. And here's a map. We can see, the U.S. right there in Canada, that Arctic Ocean region in the North Pole, and then what? Russia, that North country. And that assembly of great nations unto the North Country are not just Russia's allies like China, Iran, or North Korea. Hey, all these nations building up their nuclear capabilities as well, but also the allies of the United States of America, which at some point during World War III are going to turn against the U.S. and ally themselves with that North Country, Russia. And they're all together going to shoot 200 million nuclear missiles onto the United States of America, turning it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland. Afterwards, read Revelation chapter 17, verse 16, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, the 10 horns being symbolic for the EU or European Union, beginning with the first 10 common markets of the EU, back when it was known as the European Economic Community, upon the beast being NATO. These shall hate the whore, that mother of harlots, the United States of America, that rideth upon the beast, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire, nuclear fire. And we can already see that America's allies in these Western European nations are starting to look at her sideways and look at greener pastures towards the east. About a month or so ago, France was showing interest in joining the BRICS nations, which involves what? Russia as well as China. And then a lot of these European nations are feeling the blowback from following after the U.S. in doing this proxy war against Russia and Ukraine and putting sanctions on them, because they're on the front lines of not receiving that oil and natural gas from Russia due to the sanctions and the sabotage of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. But that's a lesson for another day. But regardless, hey, for lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon, the United States of America, an assembly of great nations from the North Country, Russia, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. And those arrows are symbolic for those nuclear missiles, because when the prophets saw these visions thousands of years ago, they weren't going to say a Satan II Sarmat missile or a hypersonic Zircon missile or Fat Man or Little Boy or anything like that. They had to describe it the best way they could with what they saw during their times. Ancient weapons of war like bows and arrows and spears and javelins. And what does a missile look like? An arrow. But now let's get back to that article. And it was published on July 8th, 2023 of this year. In a recent demonstration of its military might, Russian President Vladimir Putin sent 2 nuclear bombers on a 12-hour war game to an Arctic base, sparking concerns of escalating tensions and the possibility, inevitability, when you understand the scriptures and prophecy, of World War III, RadarOnline.com has learned. According to the Daily Star, Lieutenant General Sergei Kobylash, commander of Russian long-range aviation, confirmed that 2 supersonic White Swan Tu-160 nuclear bomber planes and 2 strategic missile-carrying Tu-95MS planes participated in the exercise, landing in the Arctic Circle. The Tu-160s arrived at the Savetsky airfield in the Komi Republic in western Russia, while the Tu-95MS planes flew from the Chukotka Autonomous Area in the bitterly cold region of Siberia. Kobylash emphasized the significance of this exercise, stating the Tu-160 is the most important part of the Russian nuclear triad. So the modernization of combat vehicles and the resumption of production of these strategic bombers is our priority risk. Real quick, let's go to Ezekiel chapter 38. I'll start at the top. And the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, which besides being known as the North Country in the scriptures, Russia is also known as Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth. That's the Most High putting those Russian Edomites back in that confrontational Soviet Union spirit. Hence why they're talking about, building back up their military assets and constantly threatening the West with nuclear annihilation and setting up political, economic, and military ties with nations all across the planet. And I will bring thee forth and all thine army. And this is mainly talking about their military assets being brought down into that Middle Eastern region for the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the War of Armageddon in World War III. But hey, they've already been getting brought forth with what? Their special military operation, in quotes, in Ukraine, and what them bringing forth their nuclear capable assets in that Arctic Ocean region, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords, soldiers, fighter jets, helicopters, artillery pieces, tanks, you name it. And it gets real juicy right here. Verse 5, Persia, which is the ancient name for Iran, which we know Russia is Iran's top ally, and Iran has shown an interest in joining the BRICS. Ethiopia, which just recently, Ethiopia has talked about the need to lessen their dependence on the US dollar, and I believe they're showing an interest in joining BRICS as well, which remember, the BRICS includes Russia as well as China and Libya with them. Russia has political ties with Libya, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer, which is speaking of Turkey, and we know that behind the scenes, though it bubbles to the surface every now and then, that Russia and Turkey are bosom buddies, and eventually Turkey is just going to completely turn against NATO in the West and ally themselves with Russia and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the North Quarters and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared and prepare for thyself and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. Russia's allies and Russia being a guard unto these smaller nations, shielding them, putting that umbrella of defense over them economically and militarily against Western meddling and sanctions and stuff like that. And ultimately, these nations also coming down with Gog or Russia into the Valley of Jehoshaphat for the War of Armageddon. Kobilash emphasized the significance of this exercise, stating the Tu-160 is the most important part of the Russian nuclear triad. So, the modernization, refurbishing, and building back up of combat vehicles and the resumption of production of these strategic bombers is our priority risk. And I will put hooks into thy jaws and pull thee back and bring thee forth. Russia has previously boasted about how vital the Tu-160 is to its nuclear fleet. Despite performing combat tasks during the special military operation, That's pretty much it with this article. You get the point. Hey, but as we can see, all the major chess pieces for the third woe, World War III, are being moved into place. And much sooner than we think. Hey, all these prophecies are going to come to their fulfillment. But now let's get back to these precepts. Back in Jeremiah chapter 50, I'm going to jump down to verse 41. Behold, a people shall come from the north. Hey, that north country, Russia, Gog. who just recently has been doing drills with nuclear bombers up in that Arctic Ocean region and has been talking about the need to modernize their nuclear triad combat forces up north. And a great nation and many kings shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth, from the ends of the earth, that assembly of great nations unto the north country, Russia, as well as America's own allies who are going to turn against her and ally themselves with Russia. They shall hold the bow and the lance, those nuclear weapons, and those bows being symbolic for the missile silos and other launch platforms that those missiles are going to come from, because bows shoot what? Arrows. They are cruel and will not shew mercy. Their voice shall roar like the sea, and they shall ride upon horses, every one put in array, like a man to the battle against thee, O daughter of Babylon. Hey, the daughter of Babylon, that virgin daughter, Babylon the Great, the United States of America. And when you go to Psalms 137, verses 7 to about 9, it shows that these Edomites are synonymous with the daughter of Babylon. But now I'm going to jump up to verse 40. As the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof. And besides being known as the daughter of Babylon in the scriptures, America is also known as spiritual Sodom and Egypt, as pursuant to Revelation 11, verse 8. And it should be self-evident why America is known as spiritual Sodom in the scriptures. Just look at what last month was, and this is the #1 nation that pushes that alphabet lifestyle onto the rest of the planet. As the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, saith Yahweh, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. And ancient Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed with fire and brimstone from the sky, and is an uninhabitable, desolate wasteland to this day. And this modern day spiritual Sodom and Gomorrah is going to be destroyed with modern fire and brimstone, those 200 million nuclear missiles, which is also going to turn it into an uninhabitable, desolate wasteland, where no man shall abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein for the rest of eternity. And after a time, only desert creatures are going to dwell here, as it says in verse 39. Therefore the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the islands shall dwell there, and the owls shall dwell therein, and it shall be no more inhabited forever. And we know this isn't talking about ancient Babylon, which is in modern day Iraq, because clearly you've got people and civilization there to this very day. Neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation, point blank period. And when everything's said and done, the former United States of America is going to stand as an eternal memorial as to what a wicked kingdom looked like, how not to govern the earth, and what the judgment and punishment was for afflicting the apple of the Most High's eye, the true children of Israel, again, known as you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. So that's it with this lesson. With this lesson, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. As we can clearly see, we are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites, primarily from the daughter of Babylon, America. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.